All right, let's see if I can move this over. Perfect. All right, everybody. Well, welcome to day 3 of MORPC's Grant Camp Week. This is a fun in the morning. We're going to be talking about ODNR, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Ohio Public Works, and Ohio EPA. All the funding opportunities for our local governments in Central Ohio. So we've got some great speakers this morning, and we're going to open here. Let's see. First up, well, myself here, Eileen, Member Services Officer at MORPC. I work with all 74 governments, from our tiny villages to our cities and townships and counties. Lots of fun. All right, Dwayne, you're going to be up first, and if you want to go ahead and take control of the screen, we'll let you have at it.
Let's see if this works. Can you see my screen?
I can see your face right now, and then you want to go up and steal it with that where the X is.
Okay. We're right here. Oh boy.
It's right next to the microphone.
Okay. All right. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Surprised that I was able to make that work. So
there you go. You're good at it. I'll turn off my face.
Okay, so again, I want to thank MORPC for allowing us to present our grant application, our grant programs for the Clean Ohio Trails Fund, the Recreational Trails Program, and the Land and Water Conservation Fund and the Nature Works programs. These are all reimbursable grant programs through the Department of Natural Resources, through our Office of Real Estate and Land Management, through our Recreational Services section here. And we'll start again mentioning the programs. Again, we have Clean Ohio Trails Fund, which is our bigger trails grant program, and it's a state funded program through state bonds. The Recreational Trails Program is funding that comes through the Federal Highway Administration through the Transportation Alternatives Program that we administer. The Nature Works Program is a state bond program that deals with recreational type of projects, and as well as the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is a federal program through the National Park Service. We'll start with the Clean Ohio Trails Fund. And just to give you an idea of the type of projects we're looking for in this trails grant, we're looking for basically larger trails that connect to other trails or connect to communities. So the ideal project would be a couple miles of trail on an abandoned railroad corridor is kind of what the program is designed for, but not exclusively for. We look for trail projects that are consistent with the statewide or regional or local trail plans. We want to link population centers, preserve corridors if we need to, not preserving big swaths of land, but the trail corridor that may be endangered where we can put a trail there instead of having some kind of other development on those trail corridors. And we want to provide commuter access and economic benefits if we can through the program. Just to give you a brief history of the impact of the Clean Ohio Trails Fund from 2002 until last year, we've been able to award over $100 million to 317 projects. We've been able to acquire 128 miles of corridor through our acquisition portion of the program, almost over 500 miles of new trails, almost 50 new bridges we were able to assist in funding, 14 new trail tunnels, and 37 trailheads. The eligible project scopes are land acquisition for trails. So when you think about acquisition, we really want you to focus on just enough land to build the trail with some buffer. So if it's a really nice parcel that you want to buy, that you want to develop for a park, and you're going to put a trail on, this may not be the program that you would apply to for funds to acquire that property. Again, the ideal acquisition would be like a railroad corridor or a smaller piece of a larger property where we could fit like a 10-foot wide or larger trail through. We can help assist on those acquisitions. Trail development is the big portion of the program, where we want to actually construct new recreational trails. No maintenance is involved in this program. We do not fund maintenance out of the Clean Ohio Trails Fund, but we do construct new trail development. Trailhead facilities we're able to participate on only if they're a very small portion of the project. So say if you have like a $750,000 trail project and you want to put, say, a gravel parking lot or a small paved parking lot at one or two of the trailheads, we could assist in those costs. But if you're trying to build, say, a huge restroom facility with a huge parking lot that's going to be more so for the benefit of your park and not so much the trail, those are trailhead developments that we won't participate on. And we won't fund trailhead development as a standalone project. So we want to keep that in mind. We can also participate in design and engineering costs, and this makes our program kind of beneficial to partner with the Transportation Alternatives Program through ODOT and some of your MPOs or whatnot, where some of those costs may not be covered by other grant programs. We can come and assist with those design and engineering costs. Design and engineering cannot be a standalone project, so we'll have to have a nice chunk of our funding going towards the construction of the project, but we can help assist in design and engineering costs. And one unique part of this program is that we can also do a 2-year look back. So say you were awarded funding in 2021, say in October, but the design and engineering process has already started on your project because you have maybe other funding sources there. Once you get into a grant agreement with us, from the date the agreement is executed, we can do a 2-year look back for eligible design and engineering costs that you incurred on the project, and we can reimburse for those costs. So you don't necessarily have to secure our funding up front and then wait to get other funding. You can kind of come to us maybe a year after if it's applicable, depending on your timeline, and we may be able to help with some of your design and engineering costs. The maximum grant award for our program is $500,000 per project per phase. So if you have phase 1 of your project and it's $4 million and you need $1 million from us, that's probably not you probably need to find some other funding source and then come to us to kind of tie up the loose ends there. The time to complete the project is 15 months, and that's 15 months from the day we enter into agreement with you, not the day of the award. So there is some buffer time there. And in this program, all projects have to be open to the public for a minimum of 15 years. If not, we would request our grant funding back, usually on a prorated basis. The minimum match for the program is 25%. That can either be through donations, donations of materials, services, in kind, labor. We can count that as part of your match. It doesn't have to be cash, but we do have to have a 25% match. And kind of how it works is if you have a $100,000 expense and submit that to us, we'll reimburse you $75,000 of that. The $25,000 is your match. So that's kind of how we do the financial side of our reimbursements. Just want to show you typical types of trails that we like to fund that are kind of ideal for the Clean Ohio Trails Fund. This is a trail, I think it's the Big Walnut Trail in Gahanna. It goes along the Big Walnut Creek through Creekside, long distance, wide, multi-use trail. This is something that we try to focus on awarding our funding to each year. Some bridge projects over the Great Miami River that we were able to assist with matching funds for. This is a typical abandoned railroad corridor that we were able to put some funding into to help clear and construct a trail. This is the Marion Tallgrass Trail. You can kind of see this is what it looked like when it was being cleared. And this is the final product right before ribbon cutting. So you can kind of go from a really, unsightly area that's not being used at all to a area that will get a lot of use. So we're finished with the Clean Ohio Trails Fund, and we'll quickly move through the Recreational Trails Program. Our funding comes from the Federal Transportation Bill, which is always fun when it's about to expire. So we never know if we're going to have funding in the future, but we've been really lucky in the past, and the program has continued on. This program is similar to the Clean Ohio Trails Fund, but it is more versatile. Eligible project scopes are trail development, again, land acquisition for trails. We can fund trail maintenance and restoration. We are able to fund some trail equipment, but we typically do not fund equipment grants in the state of Ohio. It has to be a very, very special circumstance. We can fund trailhead facilities as a standalone project, which is really good and different from the Clean Ohio Trails Fund. We can do safety and environmental protection for educational projects each year. And we can also cover design and engineering costs, again, not as a standalone project, but if we have money in construction, we can help with design and engineering costs. Eligible project sponsors are political subdivisions, state and federal agencies, and not-for-profits. With the Clean Ohio Trails Fund, state and federal agencies are not eligible, but with the Recreational Trails Program, they are. This is an 80-20 grant, so we'll reimburse you 80% of eligible project costs with a 20% match. The cap on projects are $150,000 per project per phase. Again, we have the 15-month time period after the project is in agreement with us to complete it, and the project must be open to the public for a minimum of 15 years. A unique component of the Recreational Trails Program is that we receive about $1.67 million per year for the program, and that money has to be distributed in a certain way. 30% has to go to motorized projects, another 30 to diverse, 30 to non-motorized, and then 40% to diverse projects, which can be a combination of motorized and non-motorized projects, multi-use trails. We can all fit those under the diverse category. Our application deadlines typically are February 1st of each year. We can provide you a link to our grant application on our ODNR website. We've had to change this deadline over the past few years for some funding issues that we were dealing with the transportation bill, and then COVID hit. So we had to make a lot of changes, but we want to get back to the February 1st deadline, which is a postmark date. Applications don't have to be into our office on that date. They just have to be postmarked by that date. And we typically make our awards in the fall of each year, say October, November. Moving on to some of our recreational grants, we have the NatureWorks program, which is the statewide bond program. Eligible projects here for public park and recreation areas. So we can do acquisition for parkland, park development. So you can do trails, playgrounds, shelters, spray parks, swimming pools, boating access, restrooms. So when I was speaking in the Clean Ohio Trails Fund, if you wanted to build a restroom facility for your park, this program may be the program that it would be better suited for those type of projects. We can cover, I think, 20% of engineering for a project. And the eligible sponsors are local subdivisions of government who must own the property for a long-term non-revocable lease, so usually 15 years or more. And school districts and not-for-profits are not eligible under this program, unlike the other two trail programs. This is a 75-25 program like the Clean Ohio Trails Fund. 20% of your local match would have to be local funds. So if you have funds from other funding sources, this program's written a little differently in statute. So 20% of the match does have to come from the locals. Donated land and labor is allowed if within the grant period, and you can match this grant with other grants, say the two trail programs that we mentioned earlier and the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which we'll speak about next. So you can use some of our grant programs to match each other. So it's kind of advantageous if the project is eligible for all four programs to apply to all four programs. Makes it a little difficult on us logistically, but it makes it easier on you because there's less match requirement on a cash side on your hand. Projects must be completed within 1.5 to 2 years, so you have more than the 15 months that the trail programs have. The NatureWorks funding is allocated by county, and you can see the distribution here. If your county does not request funds over a 2-year period, In the third funding cycle, we're able to move that funding to another county or to the next high scoring project. So um, what we're saying by this slide is if you have an eligible park project and your county's not applying for it, please do. I mean, if you're the only applicant and your project's eligible, you will receive the funding for that funding cycle. You can't really see this here, but maybe when we give you the presentation via email, you can see the county allocations for 2021. You basically, in 2019, you had a 52% chance of receiving funding if you applied, so kind of a coin flip. And the application deadline for 2021, unfortunately, just passed a few days ago, but we look to have a funding round in 2022, and the deadline should be June 1st of 2022. This is a typical project that we like to fund with the NatureWorks program. Splash parks are good. Like I said, shelters, trailhead development, we can fund all those programs through the NatureWorks program. Similarly, we have the Land and Water Conservation Fund that was permanently reauthorized by Congress in 2019, which was a big deal. And the state of Ohio, I think we do a really good job of spending our money. So the National Park Service always calls us and asks us to spend other states' dollars so they're not rescinded or taken away. So we have a lot of money that go towards this program, which was not the case, say, 5 years ago. Again, eligible projects are acquisition, development projects, rehab projects, and design and engineering. Again, Tim Robinson is the administrator of this program, and he just wanted you to know that the applicant would have to own the property or have a letter of intent from the current owner that they would transfer the property, sell it, or donate it in order to be eligible for funding. Eligible sponsors are all local subdivisions of governments. Maximum award for each project is $500,000. This is a 50-50 grant, so if you request $500,000, you'd have to have a $1 million project to request the maximum award amount. The minimum amount is $50,000, so you would have to have a $100,000 project to get the minimum funding amount. We offer this program every year, and the applications for 2022 are due November 15th. Since it's late in the year, we're having the 2022 application in November 15th. So you still have time to find a project and apply for this funding. There is something that you need to be aware of the Land and Water Conservation Fund, that if you do accept this funding, that the entire property will have to be in recreational use in perpetuity. So what we've had in the past is, say, like in the 70s, if someone asked for a $5,000 grant to put trash cans and park benches in their park, they basically encumbered that entire park in perpetuity. So that little $2,000 to $5,000 grant, if you then wanted to now sell a part of that property or transfer it to another owner for, say, to build a store or whatnot, there's a whole process you have to go through, and you basically have to find new parkland somewhere in that area to replace it. And then it can be a complicated process from what I understand. So please keep that in mind. If you do want to use land and water money, that you're basically keeping that current for recreational use in perpetuity. I'm basically talking about the 6F language here, and I'm not an expert on this, so I will not try to fake and act like I am. You can speak to Tim Robinson, whose contact information will come up soon, and he can explain this whole 6F perpetuity requirement to you. There is a conversion portion, as I mentioned, where if you do transfer property for other uses, you'd have to replace it with other recreational property somewhere else. This is an example of one of the projects we were able to use land and water money. It was to fix drainage issues on the Little Miami Scenic Trail within our state parks. You can see how bad it was initially, and we were able to come fix it. We were able to acquire large land parcels in Mercer County to expand parks. Some more land acquisition in Twinsburg for a community garden. I think a lot of land and water money went into this project here in Pike County at the First National Bank Park, which is pretty exciting to see. And a new spray ground. You can see the property to the left and what it looks like later towards the bottom there with the new spray park. You can do shelters. This has land and water money in it also. So that concludes my grant presentation. I'm sorry I went over a little bit, but our contact information is here. Feel free to contact us or shoot us an email. We'd be more than willing to help you with any grant questions that you have.
All right, great. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Go ahead and throw any questions into the chat. We'll keep going, but Dwayne will be on here to answer them right directly into the chat. Thank you so much. I would say many of you have some nice parcels in your land, in your communities that may be privately owned, and maybe there's no heir for that property, and you might want to talk to their financial advisors about donating some land. Okay, so next up, I'm going to, Tom, you want to take control of the screen? It'll be Tom Grand from WARPC, and he'll be joined by Edwina Tay, also from WARPC. And we'll be talking about OPWC projects and funding.
All right, is everybody able to see my presentation now?
Yes, yes, Tom.
Perfect, thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Graham. I work here at MORPC in the Transportation and Infrastructure Development Department, and as part of that work, I help administer OPWC District 3, but today's presentation is going to focus more largely on OPWC as a whole to be sure that it's applicable to everyone who could be on the call. To begin, the website you see on screen now will take you to the Ohio Public Works page, and all of the information you're going to be seeing throughout this presentation is available on that page, as well as further information that'll be able to assist you when pursuing OPWC funding. So OPWC funding is broken into a couple of different programs. As you can see on screen, the SKIP program gets $200 million a year, of which $20 million is allocated to the small government program and $12 million to the emergency program, both of which I'll touch on a little later in the presentation. Then there's also funding for the revolving loan program, the LTIP or Local Transportation Improvement Program, and also the Clean Ohio Conservation Fund. All of these we'll get into a little bit more detail on as we move through the presentation. So the state of Ohio is broken into 19 OPWC districts. Within MORPC's 15 county area, there are two entire districts, that being District 3, which is just Franklin County, and then also District 17. But as you can see on the map, there's also 5 other districts that are partially located within our area. So as you're looking to apply for OPWC funding, if you go to that Public Works page, as you can see on screen here, you can click on district and then find that district map and homepage and use that as well as the static map on the previous page, on the previous slide, to find which district you are in and locate and also get information on who your district liaison is so that you can contact them for district specific application materials. So from the statewide perspective, this is generally the schedule that the OPWC funding is available. So in the spring, allocations are made to individual districts. In the summer, applications for funding are made. In the fall, those individual districts work through an evaluation and scoring process to determine which projects will be awarded funding for each district. And then in the winter, OPWC begins their review of these district selections, all in time to, by July 1st, execute project agreements to make funding available. And following those project agreements, project sponsors submit disbursements and close out projects to OPWC while they're spending down that funding. So application procedures are going to be slightly different by district, but generally the OPWC application from the statewide level and then also the district's specific supplemental forms will be made available on the OPWC website. Additionally, you'll be able to find application materials that include samples of all of the required attachments that may need to be included with an OPWC application, whether that be for infrastructure funding or Clean Ohio funding. As I said, this does vary by district, so be sure to be checking in with your district liaisons to ensure you know when the due dates are, and also know specifically what the evaluation criteria is district by district. And starting this round, OPWC is rolling out a new WorksWise web portal that'll be used to submit the application as well as to submit disbursements. Now, this WorksWise web portal, as of information I heard this morning, is set to launch now on August 4th, but be sure to stay in tune as that new WorksWise web portal is being rolled out. So for project administration, I touched on this just a moment ago, but project agreements and will be shared with the CEOs of the project sponsor agencies. And those will be executed with OPWC. And the idea is to have those executed on July 1st, that being the start of the fiscal year. Signed disbursement forms with supporting documentation for the disbursements will be provided now through that WorksWise web portal, as these funds that are coming through the infrastructure program are often executed on a reimbursement basis, though there is some opportunities for direct payments to contractors. Oh.
Hey, Tom, are you frozen on there at all, or is it just me?
No, he's frozen here as well.
Tom, you want to try coming back in? And maybe what we'll do is, let's give him a second to come back in. We must be having something going down. Here he comes. All right. Hey, Tom, try this again. Yeah, we've lost your sound too.
Sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Now we can hear you. Okay.
Yeah, I
So
just had to tune in from my phone. My laptop's out, so I'm unable to share the slides at the moment. Would you be able to pull those up for me?
okay, do you want to file share?
Yes, I can share.
Thank you very much. Apologies for that. I was just in the middle of the presentation and it all crashed on me.
No problem.
One second, please.
Thank you.
We'll be right with everybody in just a minute. Edwina's calling up the presentation.
Whatever reason, it's not even popping up on mine either.
Oh, no.
Oh gosh.
You know what I'm going to do, Tom? You and Edwina want to sort that out for a minute, and I'm going to go right to my announcements. Actually, you know what? We can move to Maria. Marie, can we set you up right now, and I'll take control, and I'll come back, and I'll go to your slides.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me find us right here. Okay. And then Tom, you guys set yourself up, and there we go. All right. Let's go first one up. Okay, Marie, take it away. This
Good
is
morning.
Marie is from OEPA, Ohio EPA.
That's a mouthful, isn't it? Well, good morning, everyone. My name again is Marie Barnett. I'm with the Office of Recycling and Litter Prevention. We newly were named the Office of Recycling and Sustainability Unit, but I am actually the grants administrator for the Recycling and Litter Prevention grant. Next slide, please. Currently, we offer 4 types of grants. We offer a community and litter grant, an academic institution, a scrap tire, and a market development. Eligible applicants for this type of grant are local governments, nonprofits, academic institutions, and businesses with a government sponsor. Next, please. Groups eligible to apply are municipal corporations and counties, townships and villages, solid waste management districts or authorities, park districts, public health districts and state agencies, statewide recycling and litter prevention trade organizations, and nonprofit organizations. Eligible projects, and I won't go through all of them, but as you can see, there's a project category. There's a maximum grant request, which means you can ask up to that dollar amount, anything under that, but up to that. And then we kind of give you on the side, on the right side there, some examples of those types of projects. Next, please. The academic institution grant and groups that are eligible to apply are public and private schools, K through 12 schools, colleges, and universities. Next, please. Again, the eligible projects, and as you can see, there's a project category list. The maximum grant requests for these are $100,000 with the exception of the scrap tire, which is generally used for construction projects or for paving initiatives for schools, and they can get up to $300,000 for that type of grant. But the others, the highest it goes is $100,000. Next, please. The scrap tire grant. Groups eligible to apply for this type of grant are municipal corporations and counties, townships and villages, solid waste management districts or authorities, park districts, public health districts and state agencies, statewide recycling and litter prevention trade organizations, nonprofit organizations, academic institutions, and businesses with a government sponsor. Eligible types of projects, and as you can see, this category is a little bit smaller, but the maximum grant request is up to $300,000. Once again, they can ask for up to that dollar amount. And then there are some project examples here as well. Next, please. The market development grant. Groups that are eligible to apply for this type of grant are businesses, Ohio businesses, with a government sponsor. And a government sponsor is generally can be any local government or entity within the agency, or an agency of the state. And businesses are required to work very closely with a government sponsor. A government sponsor actually works as a pass-through. We actually consider them the grantee, and we consider the business a cooperating enterprise. Next, please. Again, the types of eligible projects are listed. They can request a maximum of up to $200,000 for specific types of projects. Next, please. In 2021, our funding criteria, our eligible applications are based on the following parameters: availability of Ohio EPA grant funds, consistency within the state goals of the local and solid waste management plans, financial need of the applicant. They're not allowed to have any outstanding financial or compliance issues, positive regional or statewide economic and environmental impact, a potential for evaluation into a permanent service or program without future agency funding. In other words, can it be sustainable without grant funding year after year after year? And there is a cash match or a line of credit that's required with each type of grant funding.
Okay.
Next, please.
I gotta pay attention.
In 2021, we received 117 applications requesting almost $7.5 million. In the academic field, we had 12 applicants, and the community and litter, we had 83, in the market development, 16, and in the scrap tire, 6. Next, please. With this year's funding, we reached, this is just a little map to kind of show you where all the applications came from. We're happy to announce that we were able to fund generally close to, out of the 88 counties, we funded 64 of those counties. So we're very proud of that. So it's a wide range of counties that, we've been able to assist just this grant round through through 2021. Next, please. The 2021 available funding we had this year, we recommended $3.5 million to go to recycling and litter prevention projects, $1 million to the scrap tire projects, and we got $2 million extra of additional spending authority for 2021. So we were able to fund $6.5 million in projects this year. Next, please. With that said, we were able to fund 9 academic projects, 5 scrap tire projects, 12 market development projects, 67 community and litter projects, and 10 tire amnesty events. And the 10 tire amnesty events are usually local events where people can bring in tires and have them dropped off, you know, to clean up their backyard or to clean up their driveway or their garage or wherever they may have them. But we're happy to announce we were able to award $6 million. The application review timeline for 2022, our online application opens on November 1st, 2021. Our grant review deadline is January 21st of 2022. Our online application closes on February 4th. We request business documents, meaning we ask them for financial background to make sure that they're a legal business in Ohio and that they're operating and doing well. And we give them an additional week from the closeout to submit their documentation for that. Our application review is from February to April, and we generally award announcements in the end of May, early June, and grants can begin their projects July 1st of 2022. Next, please. This is just a little brief a bunch of photos of kind of breakdown of where we have put money and how many different projects as of 2018 we were able to do. As you can see, we had almost 10,000 volunteers that volunteered for almost 24,000 hours of work. We cleaned up 2,610 miles of roadside pickup. So it's just a little bit, we're very happy of this 108,376 scrap tires collected. That's a lot of tires. But we just kind of put this out here to kind of give you a little brief picture, you know, just in pictures, kind of what we have done. Next, please. And this is the list of the all the individuals that work in the unit. Any of these people can help you if you have any questions. I also had some handouts, I believe, that you'll get with the presentations today that kind of break down each program a little more specifically and what you can ask for and what type, you know, how much money you can get for those projects. And we'd be happy to work with anybody. If you have anybody or know anyone, please give them this information and ask them to reach out to us. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Marie. So amazing because Ohio EPA is no longer a bad word. They're very helpful. They're doing great work across the whole state of Ohio, and it was nice to see 64 counties benefited. Thank you so much. All right, my MORPC team, can you take charge here? And we're going to go right back to our last kind of resume where Tom was.
Yes, I
thank
did
you.
not try to do that again.
Oh, perfect. We're seeing your screen now.
Oh,
Edwina.
good. All right, 1 second.
I'm very sorry about mine cutting out. My laptop screen went black and now it's just making a weird noise and I can't find a way to fix it. So that'll be for after this call. I'll take the rest of this one from my phone. I do believe we were on the project administration slide. If you could advance to that one for me. Perfect. And actually, I think we just finished that one up, so we can go ahead and move straight into the State Capital Improvements Program. So to provide some additional background on the individual programs provided by OPWC, the State Capital Improvements Program is allocated $200 million a year, and it's often referred to as Issue 1 or Issue 2 funding. At the district level, it is important to remember that at least 10% of each district's allocation must be given out in the form of a loan. And if we can advance to the next slide, you'll see when it comes to SCIP program eligibility, the eligible applicants are counties, cities, villages, townships, and also water and sewer districts. And the infrastructure that is eligible includes roads, bridges, and culverts, as well as wastewater and stormwater sewer programs. Funding included, and also just water systems in general, to be clear. Funding can be provided in the form of grants, which are awarded at up to 90% of all funding for repair and replacement of infrastructure, and up to 50% of costs for new or expansion of infrastructure. Additionally, loans can be awarded at 100% of the project cost through the SCIP program, as well as loan assistance. If we advance to the next slide, I can provide you with some information on the Local Transportation Improvement Program, or the LTIP program. The LTIP program provides is provided funding related to the motor vehicle tax. So when we're looking at gas taxes, these lead to fluctuations in available LTIP funds, and LTIP funds are awarded as grants. If we can advance a couple of slides, please. If we can go to that's perfect right there. So LTIP program eligibility, this is only for transportation improvements, so only roads and then bridges and culverts. As I mentioned before, this is also grants that can be awarded for up to 100% of the project costs. And eligible applicants include counties, cities, villages, and townships. If we can move to the next slide, please. So the small government program is one of those subsets that I mentioned earlier of the SCIP program, allocated $20 million a year. And the small government program effectively works as a second chance for villages and townships that have a population of 5,000 or less. If they submit to their district for OPWC SCIP funding and are not selected at the district level, they can recompete at the state level through the small government program. Additionally, the small government program has varied criteria relative to the individual districts, so there is a 30-day cure period to rework the application to be more competitive in that small government program. Can we move to the next slide, please? Perfect. So then the emergency program, as I mentioned earlier, provides $12 million a year for emergency funding for disasters caused naturally. So one thing that OPWC wants to make clear is that a failure to maintain a roadway resulting in degradation or potholes does not constitute an emergency. Previously, emergency funding was only at $3 million a year, and it is just now moving to $12 million a year. So OPWC is hopeful that they'll be able to support more projects. As we move on to SCIP and LTIP project selection, it's important to recognize that the funds are allocated to each of the 19 districts, and then each of those 19 districts have a committee that works together to select projects to be funded. And each of these committees has their own unique methodologies, which, as we move to the next slide, you'll see here is an example of the methodology that some of the heavily weighted criteria in our methodology here in District 3. But again, these methodologies vary district by district. So it's very important that you're reaching out and communicating with your district liaisons that you can find on the Public Works website to understand which criteria and the weights for those criteria will apply in your district when you are looking to apply. Additionally, on the next slide, I'll provide a sample of how District 3 schedules how the District 3 schedule works for applications. But again, each individual's district's schedule will vary, so be sure to check with them. So as you can see, we ask for applications to be due in September and then engage in a number of scoring sessions with our committee before we reach a final action in December. And then importantly to note here, at the bottom there, I forgot to update that to say July of 2022 through June of 2023, but nonetheless, if you are applying in the upcoming cycle, you will be applying for state fiscal year 2023 dollars. And that means that you need to begin construction on that project in state fiscal year 2023, which will begin July of 2022 and end June of 2023. And now, after that, I believe I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Edwina Tay to provide you some additional information on the Clean Ohio Conservation Fund.
Thank you, Tom. I'm scared to do anything to the screen so we don't lose it. So I don't know how to minimize it and then turn on my camera, so I apologize for that. But my name is Edwina Tay, as Tom mentioned. I'm an associate planner in the Planning and Sustainability Department here at MOPC, and I'm going to give you an overview of our Clean Ohio Conservation Fund. And so similarly, OPWC administers the Clean Ohio Conservation Fund, also referred to as the Clean Ohio Green Space Conservation Program. And essentially, this program is a grant-funded program that allows for the acquisition of open space for protection and riparian corridor projects, which improve water quality. Again, we go by how the state is divided into 19 districts, but then the local committee that determines which projects to be funded is called the Natural Resource Assistance Council. And this is made up of 11 members from the conservation and green space community. In terms of applicants, local governments and conservation nonprofits are eligible to apply for funding, and funds cover 75% of eligible costs. The program essentially is focused on acquiring parcels that either have been developed, that haven't been developed because they are located in a floodplain or have wetlands, or they are outside an urbanized area and the community is looking to preserve it from development encroachment. And so when the land is acquired through the Clean Ohio program, deed restrictions are put in place to either restore or preserve its ecological value. So certain facilities are not permitted, and these include playgrounds, ball fields, anything that would reduce the value are not limited, but minor improvements to ensure public access are allowed and are eligible for program funding. And so this is how our scoring methodology looks like. The application is divided into 4 parts. Each section has set of weighted scores that are given, and our total maximum points is 241. And so if your project comes and it's scored, it should be 241. We are able to strike a minimum, and that would help to determine which funds, which projects are funded. This is our schedule for our upcoming round. Preliminary screenings are due for December 10. We encourage applicants to submit their applications, their preliminary applications. In January, we allow applicants to give presentations, and during these presentations, you are given feedback from our NRAC members. Final applications are due March 11, and then we review and score the applications. We also organize site visits so that members can actually have a physical feel of the applications. And then April 25th is when we do the final action and subsequent award of funds. So this slide is just basically general tips for success. We are saying that there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to this application process. So we encourage applicants to start early and to plan ahead. Know your district's methodology. For us here at in District 3, MOPSI staff are available to provide you feedback when you reach out. Be selective in your application process. Determine which applications will be strong, and we encourage you to submit those. Be complete and clear and concise as much as you can, so that it makes the work of the NRAC committee members a little bit easier. Again, MOPSI staff, and I'm sure almost all the other districts also provide feedback when you reach out. And we encourage you to attend meetings, particularly during when the projects are reviewed. This slide essentially is also highlighting what Tom talked about the public work-wise training sessions. The highlighted numbers are MOPSI's districts within MOPSI's area of interest. And so with this link, you're able to RSVP and attend these training sessions. If you have any questions, Tom and I are available. Please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Eileen?
I'm sorry, everybody. I forgot to unmute. So there was a question, thank you. There was a question raised about whether we can use the money to cover sewer drains, and the response was only SCIP funds can be used for drainage projects. LTIP is for road bridge projects. So thank you, Edwina and Tom. You both said that you could help applicants answer questions. I think you have an information session when they're getting ready to apply. Is that correct?
Yes. For Clean Ohio, we do have a workshop, and so and I think, I'm not sure, I don't have the date offhand, but please check our website during as and when. We would provide more details for that, but we do have applicants workshop.
Okay, great. All right, so hopefully you're seeing this. Can you see I'm getting ready to, thank you very much. We're going to go into some quick announcements, and you can continue to send us questions if you'd like. That was a lot to cover for OPWC. So tomorrow we will be having our at 10 a.m. Grant Camp 4, and it's going to be on USRDA rural programs and also rural broadband. And the last 30 minutes of that program will be on the region, Central Ohio region and rural broadband. So we will give you a nice update, and we'll give you some quick resources that are available right now and what's happening. A lot's going on right now. And then also at 1 o'clock, very short, 1 to 1:30, we're going to give a 101 transportation update. A lot of people still have some confusion about how you get the federal monies. And Thea is going to walk you through the simple well, it's not simple, the process of getting federal money for transportation if you're inside the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So that's a short, right before commission, 1 to 1:30 tomorrow. The earlier one on broadband is 10 to 11. And then we'll wrap up the week on Friday at 10 o'clock with a program by SWACO. They have a lot of some grants, and our Franklin County Soil and Water Conservation District. So that is it. We're going to PDF the slides, and Tom, make a correction in that one on the date and send it to us so that it goes out consistent with what people need to know. And then we'll also give you a link, thank you, Tom, to the video, and we'll ask you for a survey. So thank you so much, everybody. I think we're about ready to wrap up. I'll check if there's any last questions in the chat. Oh, I see. Edwina wrote down that October 4th will be the Clean Ohio Applicant Workshop. So that's a good date to mark down. And I guess, Edwina and Tom, it depends on how many applicants you get each year, right? How competitive it is and how much can be awarded. So never give up is my thought. Never give up. All right, everybody. I want you to have a good day today. A little bit rainy, but we're going to have a beautiful weekend ahead. Thank you so much. And you can always send questions after if you think of something. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.